Assalamualaikum and may Allah bless us with His great blessing. My name is Rosmawati binti Ayah. Matric number is 266313. Today, I will present truthfully about riba in Islamic banking. Bank Islam, generally known as Islamic banking, is a financial organization dedicated to providing Sharia compliant banking service to Muslims. Meanwhile, the Islamic banking system refers to set a banking and financing organization whose ideas and operation are founded on Sharia law in order to achieve equitable wealth and income distribution. In order to meet the challenge of muamalat issue in the Islamic world, Islamic banking and finance was introduced in the early 70s as an attempt to provide financing alternative to Sharia compliant Muslim other than conventional banking option which is seen as vulnerable to riba and gara issue. Despite the identity crisis, which was a major challenge in the beginning, such as the provision of infrastructure and physical development, but after 40 years, Islamic financial institutions are now able to compete globally while strengthening the performance of Sharia compliant position not only in terms of technical and form but also able or at least lack of meeting the achievement of Islamic goal and objective. The problem identification is interest in saving and loan is not practiced as riba according to modern Islamic thinkers such as Nasir Hamid Abu Zaid. Muhammad Said Al-Asmawi, who was a consultant in the Court of Appeal and Chief Judge of the Criminal Court, said that bank interest is not the same as riba, which is forbidden in the Quran. He argued that the benefit is the modern economic system are not exploitative. The group that is in line with the opinion that interest in the banking system is not illegal and is not counted as riba is called muda'afah. In Malaysia, Islamic banking and finance in particular, each institution is required to establish Sharia committee members and advisor as a way to ensure that each of its operations runs in accordance with Sharia requirements. Since 1993, conventional banking institutions began to be given permission to provide Islamic banking service. This development has put the Islamic banking industry into a phase of maturity, but issues related to the conflict of interest are still a dilemma. Element in Islamic muamalat transaction that is absolutely forbidden by Islam is riba, uncertainty, gara, gambling, fraud of teaching, and illegal product. Riba means additional of a child as according to Al-Hajj in the Al-Quran. According to the definition of the Security Commission Sharia Advisory Council Group, in terms of Sharia, riba means an additional of surplus earned by one party from the other party without proper remuneration. Riba is Islam as explained is prohibition without any disagreement by the scholars. There are several verses of the Quran and Hadith that clearly forbid usury. Therefore, one must know the evidence for each law before the sentence is given. This is to avoid error in judging. This shows the role of law, halal and haram in Islam is something very close in the life of a Muslim because it is a concept of ta'abudi, which refers to the role of a servant to worship his creator, either carrying out his command or leaving his prohibition. Riba in Islam has explained its prohibition without any disagreement by the scholars. There are several verses of the Quran and Hadith that clearly forbid usury, namely Al-Baqarah verse 275 to 281. Among the verse that give a stern warning by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala that forbid the riba. Therefore, one must know the evidence for each law before the sentence is given. This is to avoid error in judging. However, there are some exceptions in law if there is ambiguity from the points of view of argument, either from the point of view of conviction and proposition, where it requires the ijtihad of the scholars in issuing the law. In consumption loan and productivity loan, some argue that usury means an addition to the capital, so certain types of addition are undoubtedly prohibited by Islam. This group says there is no evidence to show the existence of commercial loans among the Arabs. They argue that if this principle is accepted, then a similar problem will arise regarding the types of gambling and alcohol that various brands must now be declared halal. In prohibited riba, only riba al-nasiyah, there are two streams of thought among Muslim scholars regarding the determination of the scope of riba. One group was so afraid of usury by extending its scope that Saidina Omar allegedly once said, "In that I am worried that we are adding things about usury tenfold because we are afraid of it." The other group tries to narrow the scope, and the law's opinion is the opinion of Ibn Abbas, who only say riba al-nasi'ah is forbidden. Bank Islam expand its branches nationally to compete with other conventional banks in order to handle the transaction required by Muslims on the flat national average. Simplify the transaction bureaucracy in executing loan and financing transaction, as well as consider high profit in their financing so that Muslims do not choose other conventional banks that deal in riba transaction, as they consider transaction easier and lower.